So for those of you that are new to my channel, my name is Annalisa, and today we're going to be talking about the Texas education system. My puppy decided to join in. So this video will cover school funding, public school lunches, and something called the Robin Hood Law. Later on in this video, I'll go into more detail as to what the Robin Hood Law is and how it works, but for right now, we're first going to cover public school lunches because I feel like public school lunches are one of the biggest issues. And really quickly before I get into the video, I just wanted to say that when I went to public school for the first time and I had lunch, I was extremely disappointed by what was being served to us just because I thought it would be healthier, I thought I would get a bigger portion, and I just thought it would be good food. But I myself have only eaten public school lunch once because the one time that I did, I literally threw up. Never again. Millions of our tax dollars are taken for schools and aren't being used in the way that you would think they are. The National School Lunch Program allows for schools to give low-income families free lunch, but the amount per student is only $2.68. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the $2.68 is not only meant to cover the food, but it's also meant to cover the facility, the labor, and the structural costs that any school encounters. And as you can imagine, a budget of only $2.68 leaves healthy food completely out of the picture. Everything is bought wholesale and is either frozen or just very cheap and unhealthy. And when you think about it, the state feeds children in the same way that they feed prisoners. Look at some of these pictures for reference. Now look at these pictures. And I just wanted to throw this out there that not everybody can eat meat and not everyone can consume dairy products. And I'm not just saying that because I'm vegan, because I know a lot of people are gonna be like,
she's vegan, that's the only reason she's saying that.
But it's true. A healthy meal for one person is about $8. And that covers a protein, vegetables, and fruit, which is easily doable with the amount of money that the state gets. And I think we can all agree that students need to be able to eat nourishing and healthy foods in order to perform well in their academic studies. What students eat can not only affect their mood and performance, but also, most importantly, their health. Not to mention that many nutritionists have said that the way that public schools are feeding children is fueling the child obesity epidemic. And according to WebMD, more than 1 in 3 students that eat public school lunches are either obese or overweight. Moving on to education in low-income areas, another very important topic. There are students in classrooms with textbooks from years back, there are students not eating healthy lunches, and most importantly, there are students with disabilities that are not getting the resources that they need in order to succeed. There are also teachers working 2 jobs, living in their car, and even accepting donations from students via social media platforms. I've seen so many TikTok videos of students raising money for their teachers simply because they just aren't paid enough. They're not paid on a livable salary. Teachers make a big impact on children's education. What we learn and how we learn as children is taken with us throughout our lives. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. So why aren't they being paid more? In particular, low-income area teachers are not being paid enough and are either leaving or barely surviving. And I've seen this firsthand when I went to a low-income area school. A lot of the teachers would just quit because they were not being paid enough, and we would have substitutes almost every single day simply because of that. Before I went to that low-income area school, I had always gone to the best schools. My mom always used her friends' addresses to get me to go to the nice schools in a faraway neighborhood. And eventually I left the nice school and I went to the school that was by my house in a low-income area. Just to give you a little look into the differences in schools, I had originally always gone to Pershing, Mark Twain, all in Houston, and for high school I went to Bel Air High School. And then when I decided to leave that nice high school, Bel Air High School, I had gone to Sam Houston High School, which is a completely different area. And while I was attending school at Bel Air High School, I had always taken AP classes. So when I transferred to Sam Houston, I had resumed my classes. But when I was in my AP history class at Sam Houston, I started doing the work and I had realized that my teacher had handed us pages that were half printed or poorly printed. And so I recognized the paper because we used the exact same one in my AP class at Bel Air High School, and I pulled it out of my binder because I still had all of my original work from my other school. I gave this to my teacher and I showed my other classmates, and they were surprised because they had never seen the paper that was fully printed with all the information because the school didn't have enough money to pay for ink, and at times even paper, they would run out of paper. And occasionally at Bel Air High School we would run out of paper too, which never made sense to me. And there were a bunch of structural issues at Bel Air that were never fixed. I stayed at Sam Houston for about a year and a half, and then I ended up graduating early just so I didn't have to deal with high school anymore. I was over it, but that's a completely different story. But I did see a lot of issues firsthand. We had a bunch of textbooks that were years back from our grade, Some of them were in very, very poor condition and were outdated. We weren't allowed to get food brought to us, and we weren't allowed to go get food ourselves like we would at Bel Air. We could leave for lunch if you had a pass, but everyone just left even without a pass all the time. In high-income areas, students have access to psychologists, nice textbooks, nice laptops, and healthy lunches. But isn't this something that should be available to all students? And if so, what is the solution? There's something called the Robin Hood Law. This law was put into place to have higher income areas pay more in taxes to help fund the schools in low income areas. In my opinion, this sounds like a great resolution, but the way that the state is executing it is horrible. And here's why. The state is supposed to pay their half, and taxpayers are supposed to pay their half, so everything is 50-50. And the way that it works is that each school gets $5,540 per student. But that doesn't take inflation into consideration. And the reason that I say that is because over the past 10 years, the state of Texas has paid $339 less per student, and that number keeps increasing year after year. In 2019, the state of Texas funded the education system by 39%, whereas taxpayers funded the education system by 62%. This, of course, meaning that taxpayers are paying way more, but that money is not being used for education. So where does the money go? Well, the money is sent to the state's general fund, and the general fund is basically the state's bank account. Now, I think that we would all assume that that bank account would be specifically for education, but no. It's not. Money from sales tax and corporate income tax are also collected into that account. But the issue with that is that when everything is in this one account, the state can't determine how much is meant for education and how much is meant for other use. I used to live in Houston, Texas, then I lived in Dallas, Texas, now I live in Austin, Texas. So let's use Austin ISD as an example. Austin ISD is considered to be property rich, which means that a percentage of local school taxes go back to the state as general revenue. Now this general revenue money, there's a lot of it by the way, is not going to bettering the quality of education. And Austin ISD in particular pays more local school tax dollars than any other school district in Texas. Just to give you an idea of how much they pay back, in the 2017 to 2018 fiscal year, Austin ISD alone paid $544 million back to the state. And in the years 2021 to 2022, they are projected to pay $974 million. And altogether, over the course of 5 years, that is $4 billion. This is something that the state legislature needs to sort out so that all students can get a good education with all of the resources that they need. I will be making more in-depth videos about the education system. There's so many more things that we can get into. So if you are interested in that type of video, please leave a comment, like the video, let me know you're interested in this topic, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.